Hey guys, I'm Little Demon and welcome to my channel, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we have a small break from Good Omens because I wanted to make a part 2 of the Rivals video. If you haven't watched that part, don't worry, it isn't a direct continuation, it's just the same format. But if you've seen it, you already know what this is about. I picked 3 rivalries and created characters from both sides that aren't rivals. Almost like Romeo and Juliet, but less fatal and more cute and happy. But before we get started, don't forget to leave your like down below and subscribe if you haven't yet. And if you'd like, leave a comment with your favorite movie rivalries. If I get enough, I'll make a part 3. But let's get started with the video now. The first one that we have was going to be on the first video, but it didn't. And it is pirates and sirens, or mermaids. I know that technically they are different, but for this drawing in specific it doesn't matter that much. On the last video I did write short stories to read while the speed paint is playing on the background, but I didn't do it this time. I have more fun rambling about the stories I imagine than to read them out loud. I really like to write and those short stories are always super fun, but I just get nervous when I read them out loud. But that doesn't mean there's no story here, there's always a 37-layered background story that my brain made up while sketching. For the pirate character, I imagine he decided to run away one day to be a pirate. But he had no ship, no food, no money and no idea what he was doing. He managed to steal a small boat as his first act of piracy and went into the ocean. But in case you don't know, small boats don't usually go that far. They are small and weak against the waves and you can't take much supplies on those. So his decisions didn't make him that great of a pirate, the only treasure he had was the boat really. But after a few days had passed, he was just laying there rethinking his life decisions, looking half dead, when someone comes on board. It was a mermaid leading into the boat to try and get some stuff. She thought he was gone, that's why she was stealing from him, but he wasn't. After both of them getting scared for a few moments, they managed to have a conversation. He finds out that she is some sort of mermaid pirate, or at least she's trying to be. I imagine that a lot of mermaids would like to collect human treasures from the ships they sink, and this one likes it too. But she doesn't like to just stay by the rocks and wait for ships to come close, she wants to travel the 7 seas and find ships and take the treasures to herself. So in their own way, both want to become pirates. What's stopping him is the lack of knowledge and materials to start, and what she's missing is a way to get her own ship. So they decide to work together and become great pals. As you may know, there is a lot of sunken ships in the bottom of the ocean and a good amount of them have valuable things inside. So I imagine she would get those treasures for him and he would go on land and buy the things they need. They start slowly but soon they make a plan for their ship, a ship that both of them would be able to be in together. I'm imagining a ship that has an underwater part, I can imagine it in my mind, I'll make a crappy sketch to put it on the screen. But I just imagine a big pirate ship that has an entrance directly to the ocean and glass division so they can see each other and communicate. Is it possible to build a ship that is partially filled with water and has direct hold into the ocean? I believe so. I actually thought about the physics of it for a bit, and it might be possible. I tried to look online for things like that, but I couldn't find many helpful information. But anyway, they would work hard and eventually get their ship and go out into the ocean and be feared like true pirates. I think they're really cute, but let's move on to the next one. The second rivalry I'll be drawing is about a nun and a witch. I actually have a story that has 2 characters almost like that, but I won't be sharing those characters today. But I did take a little bit of inspiration from them. I imagine that this witch was living her life, doing her thing, when one day she got hurt. I'm not sure how or why, it might have been an accident or she was running away from someone, I don't know. I didn't think that deep into the story. But after she's hurt and is having trouble returning home, she's found by a nun. And she wants to help her. She didn't know she was a witch. In the beginning she didn't want her help. I think we all know why. We all know what the church does to witches. But the nun truly wanted to help. The witch refused to go to the monastery and didn't want to show her the way to her house. So they ended up going to an inn and staying the night there. With time they become a little closer. They would meet with each other even after the witch was okay again. They really loved each other's company, but the witch knew that one day she would need to either have to tell her the truth or abandon her life completely. The second option was not going to happen, but she wasn't sure about the first one either. She was afraid to lose her company or even worse. But one day she filled her heart with courage and invited the nun to her house for the first time. But as we all know, in these stories there's always drama. The witch decided to go get some flowers before she arrived, but she got there earlier. She saw the house and discovered the truth before the witch returned. When she was getting back with the flowers, she saw the nun run away. She got really scared but decided to go after her. She was afraid for her life in that moment, but she managed to catch up with the nun. She wouldn't let her go until they talked. The witch soon understood that she wasn't running away from her because she was afraid. She was running away because she knew that it was dangerous for her, she knew what could happen if more people found out. They talk it out, have a good cry about it, and end up returning to the witch's house. They ended up making a plan to escape together, and they did. And now historians would call them best friends. They were roommates after all, and as we all know, two people living in a cottage together in the middle of nowhere for years can only mean true friendship. But yeah, that's the story I imagine for them. I don't think it's the most original story ever, but it doesn't have to be fun. I think they're adorable, and now that their drawing is done, let's move on to the last one. And this one is about Fae and robots. This isn't necessarily a rivalry, but it's commonly said that iron is the weakness of the Fae. And what is a robot made of? In this case, iron. And the idea for these characters actually got me a little bit emotional. In this world there was a war between humans and fairies. Humans alone had no chance against the magic, so they built weapons made of iron. But just weapons wasn't enough, because to fight they would still need to be close to the Fae. They ended up creating iron robots that would fight for them using the metal supplies they had around. The Fae knew they couldn't fight those machines, but they tried. That was a few centuries ago. Now that the war ended, humans are safe in their kingdoms, behind iron walls. And the Fae are outside. Most of the iron robots stay outside as well, but they are now ordered to just make sure the Fae don't try to get in. They spend most days doing nothing, just standing and waiting. Occasionally they walk a little bit, but most robots haven't seen a fairy for years now, as they decided not to get close at all. But one day one of the Fae got curious and decided to get closer to look at these machines. She found one eventually and just kept looking at them from a distance. But she got closer little by little, until the day they got a little too close and the robot noticed her. They didn't do anything as they didn't register any danger. They just said she could not get into the wall and she didn't want to anyway. After that she would just sit next to a tree and stare at them every day. She would occasionally ask questions and they would answer. And the robot liked all those questions. She helped them pass the time. Eventually they would sit side by side talking, but she was always afraid of getting too close. After all, they couldn't touch. She would feel her powers weaken a little bit when they were close, but they would return immediately when they were separated. But even if they couldn't touch directly, she still liked to decorate them with flowers. There they wouldn't be complete without each other, but they knew there was a limit they couldn't cross without getting hurt. So eventually they tried to find a way to make it possible for them to hold each other. But they knew they had to be careful. After all, even if they wanted, they knew they couldn't save each other if something bad happened. They couldn't carry each other if they got hurt or sick, as that would only make things worse. And that's what I thought about this story. I think it's really cute but sad that even if they love each other, they can't even hug or anything that involves touching. I like this concept, and even though drawing robots is not my strong suit, I like how this one turned out. But those are the drawings for today. Thank you for staying here and listening to my rambles. What did you think? I didn't have much time to finish this video, but I managed to make all the drawings and edit it right on time. But I hope you liked both the drawings and the story ideas behind them. If you did, tell me in the comments which one was your favorite, and if you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss more in the future. And if you haven't yet, you can watch part 1, the link is on the card and also on the video description. And thank you again so much for watching, I truly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!